It all started on a quiet Thursday evening. One of those early autumn nights, when the air carries a chill but the sky glows with a soft orange hue that makes everything feel like it's on the edge of change. I had just finished my shift working, remotely tired but content. Was reheating leftover lasagna when I heard the Naka rapid, urgent tapping that echoed awkwardly through the hallway of our modest apartment building. I opened the door to find Emma, my next-door neighbor, frazzled, soaked. Her oversized hoodie sticking to her frame. Mascara smudged beneath her eyes like she'd been crying, or maybe just caught in a spray of water. "Hey, I'm so sorry too. Bother you," she said, clearly embarrassed. But my shower literally exploded. I think a pipe burst. There's water everywhere and I don't know what to do. I blinked, confused for a second, but then adrenaline kicked in, and before I knew it, I had thrown on some boots. Grabbed my toolbox, a rusty set I hadn't touched since college, and followed her into the steamy chaos of her apartment. Her bathroom looked like a crime scene where the victim was a water heater. The pressure hose had come loose, and water was spewing from the wall with a vengeance. Soaking the floor and creeping into the hallway, I dropped to my knees, turned the shut-off valve behind the toilet, and finally managed to stop the flow, all while Emma hovered nearby wringing her hands, muttering apologies, and occasionally shouting over the noise. After about 15 minutes. And a very wet floor later, silence returned, save for the sound of her breath catching as she realized the worst had passed. "You're amazing," she whispered, looking at me with genuine gratitude and something else I couldn't quite place. Maybe disbelief that someone had actually showed up for her when things fell apart. I seriously don't know what I would have done if you hadn't been home. That moment stuck with me, her vulnerability, her warmth. How real she was compared to the social media perfect people I usually interacted with. I offered to help her clean up. We ended up on our hands and knees, mopping and toweling off the floor with every spare sheet she had, laughing about the absurdity of the situation and the way her cat had fled to the top of the fridge in protest. What started as a repair job turned into a conversation over wine and crackers. And somehow it felt like I'd known her for years, not just as the girl next door who sometimes played indie music too loud. She told me about her job as a freelance illustrator, how she'd moved here after a rough breakup and was still trying to find her footing. I shared my own story, how I'd left corporate life to freelance in web design, and how lonely it could get staring at screens all day without real human contact. There was something deeply comforting about our connection. Like two puzzle pieces clicking into place. No pressure, no expectations, just two people who had unexpectedly found each other in the middle of an ordinary emergency. By the time I got back to my apartment that night, something had shifted inside me. Emma wasn't just a neighbor anymore. She was a person whose presence I now looked forward to, whose laughter still echoed in my mind hours later. Next few days, we started hanging out more, running into each other by accident, grabbing coffee or just chatting in the hallway. The broken shower had been the catalyst, but what followed was a slow, organic unfolding of something beautiful. On an evening, she knocked again, this time with a tray of homemade cookies and a shy smile, and we ended up binge-watching bad sci-fi movies until 2 a.m., her head resting on my shoulder as we drifted into silence. It was then I realized how rare it was to meet someone who could make you feel seen, not just noticed. Someone who cared enough to ask how your day was, and actually listen to the answer. But just when things were getting comfortable, something unexpected happened. Dima got a call from her landlord saying the whole apartment would need plumbing work, and she might have to move out for a few weeks or longer, maybe even break her lease. The idea of her leaving even temporarily hit me like a truck. I didn't know why it hurt so much until I admitted to myself I didn't want her to go, not just because I'd missed the cookies or the laughter, but because for the first time in a long time, I'd felt something real. But I didn't say anything, not yet, because sometimes you don't realize how deep you've fallen until the threat of losing it pulls everything into focus. And if you've ever been in a moment like that where something unexpected pulls two people together and changes everything, you'll want to stick around for chapter 2, because trust me, what happened next truly changed both our lives forever. And hey, if this story resonates with you, hit that subscribe button. There's so much more coming, and you won't want to miss what happens next. Emma ended up moving out temporarily. At least that's what she said. But those first few days after she left felt like someone had turned down the volume on the world. The hallway outside my apartment was too quiet, her laughter no longer echoed through the thin walls. And every time I passed her door, I felt a weird ache in my chest, like I'd misplaced something important and couldn't quite remember where I'd last seen it. We still texted memes, little updates, random thoughts, but it wasn't the same as her being next door, popping by in her slippers with tea, or impromptu game nights that somehow always turned into deep philosophical debates about the meaning of life, or whether aliens would actually be cool roommates. A week turned into 2, and though I didn't say it out loud, I missed her like hell. But I also realized something deeper. I had been drifting through life, going through motions, designing websites, paying bills, cooking the same meals over and over, until Emma shook everything up like a storm I never saw coming, and in the middle of that chaos, I found clarity. So one day, after another lonely dinner, I decided I wasn't going to just sit around waiting for Faye. I texted her, asked if she wanted to grab coffee at the cafe we both liked, and to my surprise, she said yes. But when I saw her, something was off. Her smile was there, but her eyes looked tired, her laugh a little forced, and after a bit of coaxing, she finally told me that she might not be coming back. Her landlord had offered her a buyout, and she was considering moving to a new city to be closer to her sister, start fresh, maybe even go back to art school full-time. I nodded, supportive, even smiled, but inside it felt like someone had knocked the wind out of me. I told myself if I really cared about her, I'd let her go, wish her well, be the good guy, the friend. But later that night, I couldn't sleep, and that's when it hit me. I wasn't just her friend. I was falling for her. I couldn't let her go without at least telling her how I felt. So I did something I never do. I got brave. I printed out one of the sketches she'd shown me once. One she said she never finished because she wasn't sure it mattered. And I framed it, wrapped it with twine, and showed up at the temporary place she was staying, heart pounding like I'd just run a marathon. She opened the door in pajamas, clearly not expecting anyone, and I just said, "Hey, before you make any big decisions, I need you to know something. Being your neighbor changed my life. But not because of the broken shower or the late night movie marathons or your terrible impression of Yodits, because you reminded me that life is supposed to be messy, spontaneous, full of heart and risk, and I don't want to go back to how things were before I met you." For a second, she just stared at me, like she was trying to read a language she half recognized, and then she smiled. The real one. The one that reached her eyes, and she said, "I was hoping you'd say that." And suddenly everything made sense. She didn't take the buyout. Not right away. And we spent the next few weeks figuring things out, like how to merge our weird schedules, how to survive a trip to IKEA without breaking up, how to be honest even when it's scary. But the truth is, none of it felt hard, because when you find the right person, even the complicated stuff becomes worth it. We fixed up her apartment together, added some charm to mine, and eventually, well, we became more than just neighbors. More than just friends. We became each other's home. And if this story touched something in you, if you've ever believed that love can show up in the most unexpected places, even in a broken shower, then stick around. Because this channel is all about those real, human moments that remind us why we keep hoping, keep showing up, keep believing. Don't forget to subscribe, because there's so much more to come and you never know. The next story might be the one that changes your life forever.